A draw at the first game of the World Championship match? This is so lame.
On another note, you used to be streaming quite some. Do you have plans to resume?
Maybe not today.
Tomorrow?
Not tomorrow.
Have you ever fired a second?
Why would you ask this?
Great. Thanks a lot, Jan.
Thank you.
Dingliren versus Jan Nepomniachtchi first game has just finished in a draw. Nepo had some chances, let me show you where he missed them. Game number 1, Jan Nepomniachtchi with white pieces versus Dingliren black pieces. We're gonna take a look at the game. I did say draws are for weak. That's because I'm against draws. I don't like draws. I don't think draws should be existing in the rule of chess. You don't agree with me? Well, let's discuss it together in the comments down below. e4, the game started, and then black responded with e5. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. So far we are in rule opus, very standard variation. a6, bishop a4, knight f6, short castle, bishop e7. So far, everything is going according to the plan to both opponents, Jan and Ding. Until now, because here what happens is that white plays this extremely illogical move, breaking the rules of general chess, what you do in the openings. Bishop takes c6, moving a developed piece second time. Well, you still have other pieces which haven't been yet developed, and yet you ignore it, and you take the bishop which is already chilling, doing his good job out. Besides, not only you do this, but you also give away a pair of bishops. And as you folks know, a pair of bishops is a significant advantage. Now, if you ask me, what's the idea of this line in the Spanish rule opus? Well, I'll tell you, it's because we double the pawn structure. And this worsened pawn structure for black could actually be a very interesting advantage for white. So let us see if Jan managed to, to take a use of this small little thing over here. So rook e1 followed, by the way, another surprise by Jan, because previously the games most likely would go with d3, but here Jan goes with rook e1, and now Dingliren is completely unaware of what is going to happen in this position. Well, I obviously exaggerate. Such players as Dingliren or Jan Nepomniachtchi, there is nothing that can surprise them, okay? But the thing is, this wasn't preparation, so Dingliren started thinking, and therefore the psychological advantage in this game was already on the side of Jan. Knight d7, interesting way of putting your knights. Once again, so weird, one would ask me, but Dina, the knight is already developed, why does he move it again? Yet the king is not here then. If I were to do that, you would be very harsh on me. Well, that's true, you shouldn't do that, but okay. Those guys, Dingliren, Jan Nepomniachtchi, you see them here, you see them here. You see them here, yes, right here. Those guys, they know exactly what rules they can break. Okay, well, that's why they're 2800s, but it doesn't mean that you should play the same. Although here, I mean, if it's a theory, then it's fine, you can repeat, but you need to understand the idea behind each move. And here Jan goes with this d4, boom, saying, yo bro, you know I put the rook on e1, but that was for a reason, to say hi to your king. Well, d4, e takes d4, queen takes d4. I really like this move, developing the queen, pointing out the g7 and keeping the knight on his active square on f3. And you might ask me, but Dina, again, a move against the rules. Why does white develop the queen in the middle of the opening? Isn't that not allowed? Well, okay, it's another concrete position, and there is just simply no piece for black that could stop the queen. After short castle, bishop f4. Now, bishop c5 would be really illogical, because queen could... Oh, I should probably add an evil bar. You would be more comfortable with that, right? My mistake. Here, we just go back with queen d2. In fact, queen is on d2, not on d1, because that will allow to put the rook right here, and then this bishop, okay, he's nice, but it actually might be so that black would be really, really slow in the development, and then it would cause them several problems. Knight c5 happened in the game. This is way more logical, offering to go to the endgame, also transferring the knight to e6, where he would feel really, really much better. You know, like when you're playing against a pass pawn, potential pass pawn, knight is the best blockader. Besides, it would protect the weakness on c7. I mean, weakness, okay, questionable, but still. And offering the queen trade is, of course, important because white is the one being ahead in the development. So it's good to go to the endgame in such cases to kind of calm down the things, okay? Queen e3. No, Jan is aggressive here. Jan is ambitious. He wants some blood, and it's understandable. He's playing white and he out-prepared his opponent. And besides, Ding is extremely nervous. Oh yeah, you saw Ding. You saw Ding resting with the hoodie on. Yes, completely being worried, not willing to sit on the chessboard while thinking, but taking his thought process in the separate zone. We all understand that the pressure playing the World Championship match is so tremendous. It's really hard to cope with that. In fact, Dean did say in the interview that he just way too much overwhelmed with this stress and negative emotions and worry. And I don't blame him. I played World Cup myself. I know the feeling. Believe me, I know the feeling. Bishop g4, knight d4. This is what happened in the game. What is important to mention here is that bishop g4 was the first move that made Jan think. And it's also the first bit dubious move and probably understandable. So Jan was like sitting here and thinking, okay, I probably saw it, but I need to recheck double times. So Jan did not rush with the move, and this is good because we all know, we saw the previous World Championship match, right, guys? We all know that Jan has this entire weakness of his rushing way too fast. So here he was doing a good job. Knight d4. Now, knight d4 is a very smart move because it aims a very significant square, which is f5. And you folks should really know that f5, f4, as well as c5 and c4 are the key squares for knights. These are like the best squares in any position. Queen d7, knight c3, finishing the development for white, rook a d8, and now there was a moment for white to get the first advantage in the game. The first missed moment. It was interesting. I need to show you this line. The suggested line here is h3, and the trap is here, right staring at us, because after queen takes d4, knight d5. And, my friends, we are losing. After queen takes e3, knight takes e7 check, king h8, and bishop e3. And now both black pieces are under attack. The bishop on g4 by the pawn and the knight on c5. And black would lose the piece. Well, it's not that bad because here black should have another move, which is better, not the queen takes d4, but it's the only move. Let me show you first the moves that do not work, such as bishop h5 would be simply a very passive solution because then there's just knight f5. And as I told you, whenever the knight can come to f5 and no one can chase him, not like happened in the game, not that I'm spoiling you the game, but still, knight e6, then just g4. Yes, my friends, we're pushing pawns in front of the king, but okay, it's for the greater good. Bishop g6, and now rook a d1, and this is very bad for black. After knight e7, queen e7, simply bishop g3, and black is just way too passive, and there is just one extra pawn on the king's side, and absolutely no way to, to use the advantage that the king is weak. For black, there is no way to use this, so bishop h5 wouldn't be a great solution for black. Well, if you ask me, but what happens on bishop e6? But then I'll just tell you it's rook d1, sweetie, attacking the queen. And then if queen goes back, then queen g3, attacking the pawn. And this is, in fact, well, this is really completely lost. Bishop d6, e5. What do you want here with your bishop? Oh, you go back, then here, take bishop h6, and tell me how you're gonna defend against the mate. Oh, you don't have any defense? Well, too bad, then you're losing. So h3 was a nice try. Here, in fact, there is a move that continues to hold on. This is rook e8, simply saying, bro, you're not threatening anything. And besides protecting the bishop, from knight d5. So now let's say if we take, then the queen takes. And if now knight d5 is not giving anything at all because there's just like bishop is protected, so it's actually a losing move, knight e5. So then just queen takes, rook takes, and okay, bishop c7, knight e6. It's actually a pawn sacrifice now that I look at it, but it seems like just black rooks are pretty fine. So this should be okay for black. Still, it was an interesting try. I would say it was a kind of a first miss moment for Jan. Instead, Jan played knight f5 instead of h3. Now, knight e6. I did tell you knight on e6 is the perfect blockader of the passed pawn. And I also need to mention you once again to actually remind you, remember the idea of bishop takes c6? Yes, it was to give away the bishop, but to get this double pawn. So it would make as 4 against 3 on the queen side for black, but it actually makes almost 3 because it's really impossible to create a pass pawn. Whereas white's advantage here, let me put some yellow here, is really 4 against 3. So in fact, here, white, if he wants to win, he really needs to use these pawns, either in the middle game or in the endgame. It would be easier to use them in the middle game, simply because in the endgame we got the king that can stop on the same wing. But, okay, you, there, I see you. You're not a subscriber. The button is right here, down below. Go click on it. Let's go with the game. 96 and 97 here. Queen takes c7. So the only counterfactor for black in regards of this double pawns was the pair of bishops, but the pair of bishops is gone. So now white is just with a better structure. We'll see how it goes. Bishop g3, bishop h5, f3. I really like this move, restricting the bishop. f6, it's not the same because bishop on g3 is still strong. h3, h6. Ooh, baby, here you are being very naked. What's going on with the king? I don't like that. Well, it's kind of restricting the bishop because bishop is on the dark squares and the pawns are also on the dark squares. So king h2, bishop f7, rook d1, b6, a3, a5. I mean, black is trying to get some space, but it's still pretty lame because you can see that it's still like the pawns are... you cannot create the pass pawns, so it's a fake activity. I mean, it's good. It's still good, but it's a fake activity. Knight e2, rook takes d1, rook takes d1, rook d8, rook d3. Very smart move, saying I am going to take over the open file. And if you object and you grab the rook, then I grab with the queen and I still have the open file. And you cannot get back the open file because if you try to chase the queens, then you say goodbye to your pawn and then there is a second pawn and there's just resigning. So yeah, that wouldn't happen in the game. And here, another interesting fact is that Dina was getting into a time trouble. So it was more complicated for him to find moves. c5 followed, and now queen d2. I really love this move because, once again, insisting on the fact, bro, this line, this d file is mine. c6, a mistake. No way. And now we're gonna witness the second missed chance for Nepo after rook takes d8, knight takes d8, queen f4, amazingly entering to the weaknesses. Now c6 and b6 are weaknesses, b5, queen b8, king h7, and now bishop d6 is a fatal mistake. It's not a mistake, actually, it's just an inaccuracy. But let me show you bishop c7. Not that Jan didn't see this, but he for some reason misevaluated the strength of winning the pawn. And I actually think that Jan might have simply been overthinking. You know that thing? You see an easy solution, you're like, nah, that can't be that easy. I can't be having such an easy win right over here, right? It's just, it doesn't feel right. Something must be wrong. And then you keep thinking and thinking and thinking, and then you, okay, what if I just play bishop d6 and I will take the pawn anyway and I'm better in the, space? But no, it's not like that. Sometimes it can be easy. Sometimes you should believe your instinct. Just go for it. Take the pawn. Bishop c7, knight e6, bishop takes a5. Okay, let me suggest some moves. Best move here for black is queen d7, and then it would be very important to actually go into opposite colors. Bishops, knight f4, and after knight takes f4, queen takes f4. Well, it's a long-term fight, but okay, you have your chances. Another option is bishop c3. Computer is undecisive about both, but even after queen d1, then still knight f4, again insisting. After knight takes, queen c2, for instance, is already losing because queen f5, and then king g8, and then queen c6, and simply all the pawns are falling apart. And it's more also about the king's safety, because you know how it goes with opposite colored bishops with the queens? It's about the king. You actually need to start the attack. And here, white has more pawns protecting the king. It's actually funny how both sides have this pawn chains restricting the opponent's bishops. But the thing is, just because black has one pawn less, there's always going to be some ideas for the pin. You know, pins are not nice. A lot of philosophy here. Let's go back to bishop d6. Second means chance for advantage for Jan. Queen d7, now knight g3. Knight e6 here, there was a nice move by computer, suggests that c3, protecting the d4 square. And if black tries to do the same thing as they did in the game h5, spoiler again, but fine. Not as if you didn't see the game at all. So h5, the idea is to push h4, you know, like I've already told you many times on my streams that pushing the pawns from the side, such as a pawn or h pawn, is extremely important because you kind of get space, like, you know, like a crab, you squeeze your pawn, like h5 is a good move. Threatening h4, and most importantly, yes, activating the bishop on h5. But here, black will be easily calmed down by a move h4, and white would gain advantage again. In the game, there was f4, and now after h5, white cannot play h4 anymore because, my friends, there's gonna be knight d4, and if you want to chase this knight, then you got a problem. You got a problem on g4, and now even if you take the knight, well, especially if you take the knight, then you actually, okay, everything's getting destroyed here on the king side. And the game followed by c3, and now h4 would actually have been, wait, what? h4 would have been the best. h4, and then knight goes somewhere, and then we just activate the bishop, and black is actually even better here. Well, in the game, Ding did a slight mistake. Now Nepo is finally saying, I'm not letting your bishop activate. I'm blocking it. h4, queen d8. And here there was a third moment Jan could actually fight for some advantage. Still, it's a very tiny little one, but it was interesting to consider capturing. And after knight takes, then just bishop c7, knight e6. Okay, bishop d6, we don't want to exchange a5 for f4. Obviously, we don't want to give like, okay, I gotta show you this because I know you're gonna ask me, but why not? Well, look at this. It's a nice lighted pawn. It's a weakness. And here we still have 3 against 3. So it's actually taking away all white's advantage. Bishop d6 is so much better. Then you will ask me, but why did they play bishop c7 on the first spot? Well, I don't know. They just wanted to make a move. Sometimes you just like, you know, like a ball in playing soccer, football, whatever. You just need to throw the ball to the other side because you cannot not move. And besides, it was approaching move 40. Oh, it's an analysis. I forgot. Okay, it wasn't approaching move 30. No, it actually was approaching move 30, but it wasn't relevant. And okay, let's do something like knight d8 and say, okay, what do you want? Do you want to repeat? No, I don't want to repeat. I play f5 and I take the space. Knight b7, bishop e7, and still white would hold advantage. By the way, I really love how bishop restricts the knight here. The knight has almost no square. It would take him some time to go to a5. It would be super ugly, and in the meantime, white has so many ideas to play for a win. Okay, in the game, Jan played queen b7, probably because Jan started feeling that he was already getting closer to the draw, and he was kind of, you know, trying to find the ways where on practical level it would be easier to outplay his opponent, but unfortunately for Jan, it was way too easy for Ding already to hold on. So bishop e8, knight f5, queen d7, here queen b8, queen d8, okay, said Jan, he agrees to exchange, queen takes d8, knight takes d8, queen d4, and here it's already a complete draw, and it was just a matter of time until the opponents agreed on the draw. So knight b7, e5, well, obviously you don't take because there's just a pawn as a passer, and even if you say, but the bishop can stop it, no, the bishop cannot stop it. It's just knight c5 and then d7 and then d8 queen. Okay, good. I'm glad that we agreed on that. Okay, you don't take the bishop. You go king g8, king g3, bishop d7. I'm just gonna show you the moves. Bishop c7, knight c5, bishop takes a5. Whoa, pawn. Now, finally, extra pawn. Are we gonna win? No, we're not gonna win because it's still very close to opposite colored bishops, but most importantly, there are no other weaknesses and the king. Did I already tell you that the king is the strongest piece in the endgames? Did you already ask me that you want to see more endgames with Dina? Well, here is a good example. Take a lesson. The king is the strongest piece in the endgame, and you do want to put him really, really close to the center. So king f7, bishop b4, knight d3, okay, e6, funny, very funny draw for e6. Bishop takes e6, knight takes c6. Wait, what if knight takes e6? I think it's lost. Yes? Yeah, okay, this is lost. This is just lost. This is just completely lost. Yeah, understandable. This is funny. They tricked me. I like how they trick me. So, okay, here, of course, you give away the pawn, but you take the other pawn. And now if knight b2, then you say, thank you for the bishop. Very nice tactic. Yeah, the last trick that Ding did not fall for. He didn't take on b2. Now bishop d7, knight d4, knight takes b2 finally, king f3, king d3, g3, knight c1, king e3, and white over the draw, and surprisingly Black agreed. Even though both of the players spend most of the time in their resting rooms thinking about their moves. Either way, folks, did I already tell you to subscribe? Yeah, that's important. The button is down here below. Now, the most important question, even more important than you to subscribe to this channel, is for you to tell me what did you think about my first ever official recap of the game played by the greater minds of all time, Ian Nepomniachtchi and dingliren, first game of the World Championship match, finished in a draw. Would you want to see more recaps by Dina? Let me know in the comments down below. As far as for now, I believe you know your way out of here. Goodbye.